Good evening. Good to have you with us on Urban Debate. We continue with the spotlight on the biggest story across the world that has taken the world by surprise, shocked, and brought about fear and panic for those in Afghanistan. Yes, I am talking about the return of Taliban to that country. In the next 2 hours, we will talk about the different aspects of the Taliban takeover. I'm going to start off by focusing on why the Afghan women and their family members are extremely concerned about this change in regime. We're going to tell you what exactly is to happen in Taliban's earlier regime, what is it that they're saying right now, and why it is so difficult to take their assurances at face value. We'll also talk about India's refugee policy, what India has said so far. Will we open up our doors to all kinds of Afghan nationals who are seeking refuge or asylum? That's the big question. And of course, the big challenge for India itself, as Taliban finds allies in Russia and Pakistan, Russia and China, not just Pakistan. What happens to India's strategic safety? We're going to talk about that. But first up, let's focus on the women in Afghanistan. The women who've actually seen great amount of progress for their rights, for their own development, for their future in the last 2 decades. Women who are scared today, who are wondering what happens next, who are wondering if all of their dreams have been shattered, who are wondering that any hopes of having a career or studying higher up or starting their own business, if all of that is gone, they're wondering and they're fearing for their own safety. And here is why that is a big question mark. Because no one knows, with Taliban back, if women in Afghanistan are going to have any independence at all. The big question mark is on the forced marriages that Taliban is known for. They force women into marrying their soldiers, their fighters. In their past regime, in their till recent avatar, they haven't really been for education, higher education, or working women. Higher education employment has been denied to women in the early regimes of Taliban. They're forcibly made to wear burqa, not even an inch of skin can be shown. They're forbidden from leaving their home without a male guardian. They're often forced into sexual enslavement. Few signs which are already visible is Taliban painting the salons, women's salons, parlors black. We don't know what else will go on and what else has already started. But on the face of it, this Taliban of 2021 that is taken control in Afghanistan claims they are offering amnesty, claims they want women to join the government. Nobody really is believing this right now. The tall claims, these statements that are being issued to show they are going to be all-inclusive, nobody is believing this right now. They're waiting to see how Taliban actually acts. Because when very direct questions are asked to the Taliban spokesperson, even now, about women, their equal rights, their role in politics, in government, in development, in education, often the response is about everything as per the Sharia law. Very vague, one would say. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the past experiences and what can happen next. I say good evening to the panelists who are joining me right now in this conversation. Veena Sikri, former diplomat; Farzana Amiri, student and blogger, Afghan national, who is joining me right now; Arifa Sadat, Afghan citizen; Bhaswati Mukherjee, former diplomat; Palwasha, who's also a student, is joining me right now. And I want to go across to Farzana first. Farzana was with us yesterday. Farzana, before we talk about Taliban and the fears, I wanted to ask you if you've been able to speak to your family, establish any connection with back home.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good evening. I spoke with my father around 1 week ago. He told me that the place which my father is living right now, and the place which is his job is there because he is the government job. There is completely under control of Taliban right now. So the network, nothing is working there. And also, there's Taliban's are against of those people who worked in the past with government. So right now it's a big risk for my father. It's been 1 week. I'm not able to talk with him, but I am able to talk with my siblings, which they are living in Kabul and they are doing their higher education.
Anna, what are they saying about the last 2-3 days? How has it been? Are they able to step out? Do they fear for their safety when they step out? And all these assurances that seem to be coming out from various spokespersons of Taliban. How is your family seeing this?
Actually, in Kabul, everything is, I think, is fine because the women are able to go outside and do something, like you can see on the video also. But in the other state of Afghanistan, it's not the same that which is happening in Kabul. In Kabul is more secure right now, but still there is people who are suffering because of the food, because of the accommodation, because of they are under pressure, they are having lots of stress, each and every members of Afghanistan. But about the province, which I was speaking with some of my friends, which is living in another state of Afghanistan, they are telling that here is completely the situation is very bad. Taliban are taking away the girls which are in my age. They are below 25, 35 or 25, something like that. They are taking away and sending them away to another country, which is I don't know, maybe Pakistan. So of course, all the family are getting worried, especially mothers and fathers about their girls. Right now, I'm worried about my sister. What will happen with my sister because she is younger than me, and if Taliban come and I cannot do nothing from India for my sister.
Yes, I can imagine the concern and the fear that you have, for your sister, of course, for everybody back home right now. Veena Sikri, good evening to you. For the past 3 days, the Taliban at least seems to be getting its PR as per what the world would want them to say. All these amnesty offers and assurances that they want women back in their government. But while there are very few reports coming in from Afghanistan on ground, they don't seem to be matching these words. How do you view the Taliban's stand right now?
Well, I would not put much credibility on the assurances they're giving because right now there is no government in Kabul. There is no government in Afghanistan. All we know is that an interim government is being discussed maybe in Doha with participation of a special committee, 3-member committee, Hamid Karzai, Abdullah, and Gulbuddin Hekmatyar, and perhaps with Zalmay Khalilzad. But coming directly to the question of women, I would like to say quite clearly that in the last 20 years, the development and progress of Afghanistan has been made by the women of Afghanistan. They have borne on their shoulders the hard work in the field of education, medicine, skills development, women's empowerment, the head of the Human Rights Commission, members of parliament, participation in every activity. The women have been so dynamic. They have really carried Afghanistan forward. They have developed it. They have contributed to the GDP, and they are not going to give it up. For the last 12 years, I've been working in a group called the South Asia Women's Network. That is a group I created 12 years ago. We have women from 9 countries, from Afghanistan to Myanmar, all the SAARC countries plus Myanmar. And I can tell you that my members from Afghanistan, they are members of parliament, they are ministers in the government, they are head of media agencies, they are reporters on the ground. And their involvement, their contribution is incontrovertible. Without them, Afghanistan would come to a halt. At least the cities would come to a halt. And I can tell you they are not prepared to give it up. Today, already, as you have shown on your screen, there are protests taking place. Very simple protests, quietly standing, 5, 6, 10 women holding banners. Hame apna hak chahiye. We want our rights. And they are wanting to get their rights. And this is a big issue. I would say it came up even yesterday in the Security Council debate in the UN. It came up on the 6th of August in the first debate on Afghanistan, chaired by India in the UN Security Council. And in all of these, the rights of women and children were put at the forefront. I would say these should become conditionalities. No recognition for the new regime in Afghanistan until women's rights, equality and inclusivity and non-discrimination are put in. No economic aid until these rights of women are preserved and taken forward. These are very, very important aspects which the women of Afghanistan need support of the world. And this support has not yet been forthcoming. In fact, some of my colleagues from Afghanistan have sent messages. Why is the world abandoning us? Why are we being forgotten? What is going to happen to my child who is in grade 10 and finishing his school, and he doesn't know what's going to happen to him? Instead of graduating in November, he may have no school at all. So this is a huge issue. It's a humanitarian issue, but it's a socio-economic issue. It's an issue for the future development of Afghanistan. Unless this issue is tackled face on, Afghanistan cannot prosper and be stable. So I would urge very, very strongly for this to be taken up as an issue of the highest priority, and we should join forces with the women of Afghanistan in ensuring we should not be at the beck and call of the Taliban as far as rights of women are concerned. These are universal rights. These must be given to the women of Afghanistan. Right. There can be no doubt about it, and we should not brook any doubt about it.
Right, absolutely. While I think the global community will have to do what it can to ensure that these conditions are made to Taliban for any kind of support that comes in for Afghanistan, right now, it's a big question mark for everybody. But I just want to read out few of the reports that have emerged. Reuters reported on August 15th, which is just 2 days ago, how in early July, Taliban insurgents, while they were seizing territory, went into a bank, asked the women to go out and go to their homes and never return. A 21-year-old girl was shot by Taliban for not wearing a veil, reported The Guardian on August 6. Indian media itself reported how Taliban was forcing Afghan women to marry their own insurgents, terrorists, their own soldiers. Women posters painted over. This is what has already begun to take place. So in last 1 month, when these are the kind of reports that have emerged, Arifa, it's very difficult for anybody to believe what Taliban is saying, because the horrors from last month and even 20 years ago are still fresh in everybody's minds.
मैं हिंदी बोल सकती
जी
हूँ?
बिल्कुल।
जो तालिबान अभी बोल रहे हैं कि हम चेंज हो गया, हम नया तालिबान है, ये सब झूठ है। ये वही तालिबान है, वही आइडियोलॉजी है, क्योंकि अभी दुनिया के सामने ये लोगों अभी अफगानिस्तान को नया कब्जा किया, दुनिया को शो कर रहा है कि हम अच्छा तालिबान है इसीलिए, मगर ये बिल्कुल चेंज नहीं होगा। ये वही तालिबान है, वही काम को कर रहा है। पर अगर ये अच्छा तालिबान है, क्यों अफगानी लड़कियों को बेहोश करके एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है? अफगानिस्तान में एक प्रोविंस है बदख्शान, वहां से लड़कियों को बेहोश करके एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है। ये किस तरीके में अच्छा तालिबान है? छोटा बच्चे का गलों को खत कर रहा है, ये किस तरीके में अच्छा तालिबान है? ये सब बिल्कुल झूठ है। ये तालिबान वही तालिबान है। ये लोगों आया मेरे कंट्री में इसीलिए आया बर्बादी के लिए, और कुछ भी चेंजेस नहीं है, और लड़कियों के लिए बिल्कुल अच्छा नहीं है। लड़कियों घर से बाहर बिल्कुल जा नहीं सकता है।
अभी आपकी अरीफा वहाँ पे कोई आपके फैमिली मेंबर्स हैं जिनसे आपकी बात हुई है? आप तो यहाँ इंडिया में हैं, लेकिन अफगानिस्तान में आपकी क्या किसी से बात हो पाई है? क्या वो घर से बाहर निकल भी पाए हैं?
हाँ, मेरे काफी फैमिली है वहां पर। बोल रहे जो तालिबान मीडिया के सामने बोलता है वो सब झूठ है, हम घर से बाहर नहीं निकल सकता है, और ये हमें बहुत डर है। और ये तालिबान मतलब जितना लोग है अपने घर के अंदर छुपा हुआ है। जैसे कोरोना की वजह से इंडिया में लॉकडाउन था, इस तरीके में वो तालिबान की वजह से अभी अफगानिस्तान में लॉकडाउन है। सब लोगों अपने घर के अंदर है, और दूसरा जो दुकानदारों है, जो शॉपकीपर है, और तालिबान उसको बताया कि जबरदस्ती से अपने शॉप को खोल लो। इसी वजह से शॉप को खोलो कि दुनिया को पता होगा कि हम अच्छा लोग है। इसी वजह से मगर लोगों ये नहीं कर सकता है, सब अपने डर की वजह से अब घर के अंदर छुपाता है। अभी तालिबान ये काम भी स्टार्ट किया था, घर घर जाके और घरों को चेक करा है, जो लोगों जो लेडीज गवर्नमेंट के साथ काम कर रहा था, मीडिया के साथ, टेलीविजन के साथ या कुछ और ऑफिस में काम करती थी, ये लोगों घर जाके और ढूंढ रहा है और घर के पीछे एक कॉलर कॉलर बनाता है, पिंक कॉलर, क्योंकि उस लोगों को भूल नहीं चाहता है कि इस घर में लड़की था और ये लड़की काम करती थी बाहर में। इसी वजह से वो निशान करता है और सिलेक्ट करता है वो घर को पिंक कॉलर के साथ।
आप कह रही हैं कि वो वहाँ पे लोगों के घरों में जाके लिस्ट बना रहे हैं ऑफ ऑल द विमेन हु यूज्ड टू वर्क आउटसाइड स्टेप आउट, और उन घरों को मार्क कर रहे हैं, रिकॉर्ड में डाल रहे हैं। अब भूलेंगे नहीं ये कि ये वो औरतें हैं जिन्होंने जो घर से निकली और जिन्होंने काम किया। वेरी ऑपोजिट भास्वती मुखर्जी टू व्हाट अफगानिस्तान, टू व्हाट तालिबान इज क्लेमिंग, द स्टेटमेंट्स दैट दे आर इशूइंग, यू नो, वी वांट women in government is what they claim. Very opposite to what they seem to be doing on ground. Now, my fear is that this narrative will be used by many of their backers to legitimize them without knowing the ground reality.
I think we should be very clear on what we are up against. First of all, their so-called backers, which includes China and now it seems Russian Federation, they seem to forget that Afghanistan has traditionally been the graveyard of empires. So if today they seem to be very gung-ho about the Taliban, we don't know what the situation will be maybe 6 months down the road. As far as women are concerned, this is a primitive form of Islam that they have brought into Afghanistan. It is not in accordance with Sharia law. There are many Islamic jurists who say that the Taliban perspective of women's rights do not match what is written in the Quran, that it is a misinformation and in fact, it brings a wrong image of Islam to the world. We do not expect that the Taliban will change their ways. They are doing these, as your two panelists from Afghanistan rightly pointed out, and my sympathies, like Veena's, are fully with your two panelists. They are doing this so that they can get some kind of international recognition for a Taliban-run government, because no matter what they say, they need international assistance, they need money, they need the COVID-19 vaccine. There are many things they require. So it suits them to give a superficial impression that they have changed their ways, because it seems ridiculous that on one hand, they are going house to house and putting a pink sign in front of doors of women who used to work outside. And on the other hand, they are telling women, come, join the government. Today I saw there was one lady who they said is going to work as a journalist outside her home. This is just superficial. The Taliban are not likely to change their ways, but what is more distressing is, would be if the international community did not continue this pressure on the Taliban, so that we make it clear to the Taliban, including their own backers, because in Russia and in China, and even within Pakistan, women enjoy certain rights. So it is not possible for the international community to just abandon Afghan women who for 20 years thought that they had a different future ahead of them and now are faced with nothing. So unless the international community, the UN, and all responsible players, and that includes the West, that includes the Russian Federation, that includes China, that includes us too, we have to continue the pressure so that it cannot go back to the horrific situation which prevailed in Afghanistan in what is called Taliban Point 1, that is 21 years ago. It's not possible. It is not possible to push history back in this manner. It would be too cruel to the Afghan women and to Afghanistan as a country. And it is too demeaning that when you have a universal declaration of human rights, we still have a country in this day and age which refuses to accept women with as even 1/3 equal to that of men. It is not acceptable, because Afghanistan, as a member of the UN, is also party to the Universal Declaration. So according to international law, if a country is a member of the UN, a country is party to the Universal Declaration, which gives equal rights to men and women.
Yeah, but I don't know how much of that and, citing those rules is going to help us get through the Taliban. Many of them seem to be more politically savvy right this time around maybe than what they were 20 years ago. But still, let's take a look at what used to happen in Taliban's earlier regime 20 years ago and before that in the late 90s. Women were banned from studying, banned from working at all. They couldn't even step out of their homes without a male guardian. They were banned from showing skin. And the punishments for each of these violations went from flogging, public flogging, to harsher punishments. They were not allowed in politics or government. In fact, they were not even allowed public speaking. They couldn't even address an audience at all. They couldn't meet men who were not related to them out in public at all. They were supposed to be locked up in their homes. In the last 20 years, a lot of that changed, as it was in the pre-Taliban regime. Before that, in the 70s and the 80s, as it was like that, Afghanistan had made tremendous development and progress in that front in the last 20 years. But Veena Sikri, what is to say that international laws and rules and bodies or even countries in United Nations can force Taliban to do anything or pressurize Taliban to do anything? We are not even able to do it for a lot of Saudi nations or other Islamic countries in Central and Middle East.
Well, some countries, as you know, even Saudi Arabia, they are reforming from within. But right now, with the Taliban, with this new regime in Afghanistan, the international community has everything in their hands because nobody has accorded recognition to this new regime. There isn't a new regime. There's nobody in power. Today, even Moscow has put out a statement in the afternoon, late afternoon, saying they're going to wait and watch. Yesterday, they were saying we're going to meet them. Today, we're going to deal with them. Today, they're saying we're going to wait and watch because they know that there is nothing in place yet. This is the time for the international community to remind the Taliban that they have to follow international laws and regulations. They have to follow the basic principles of civilized living, and they have to have equality, non-discrimination, and women's empowerment for everybody in their society. I think they are going to face a tremendous problem if they try to block women. Women have started protesting. They are not going to stop. They're going to carry on. They're going to insist that they are equal parts. And I think the Taliban knows it. They are wary about it, so they are trying to give these assurances. They've gone into hospitals and told the doctors, women doctors, that yes, you can keep on working and so on. But at the same time, schools have been closed. A young student sent a WhatsApp to me saying that she went to a university and she met all the girl students from the hostel who have been told to go back to their homes and not come to the university at the moment. So the situation is very mixed. The situation in the districts and the provinces is even worse because there have been terrible news coming. You saw our distinguished panelists from Afghanistan saying that लड़कियों को बेहोश करके बाहर भेज रहे हैं. So this is really scary. I think the world community has to come in right now, and whether the United Nations takes the lead, I think the UN Security Council is in a good position to take the lead. Don't give international recognition. Don't give economic aid. Nothing to do with the government and the regime until they follow the basic laws and give equality. The key issue here, what is going to happen to the constitution of Afghanistan? Because the constitution of Afghanistan is what gave to the people of Afghanistan for the last 20 years their rights. The women of Afghanistan derive their strength from the constitution, and there are a host of laws that have been passed in the last 20 years assuring their executive decisions, assuring them of the right. Now today, has all this been wiped out? Where is it? So none of this is known yet. And everybody wants to fight to retain the constitution and to preserve the minimum rights. Of course, the Taliban wants a clean slate. They want complete confusion that everything of the last 20 years should be wiped out. I don't think this should be allowed to happen. There should be a completely unequivocal position of the world on this. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, let me just pull out some, data that we had about that shows you how things had improved significantly. The female workforce went up by 40% since Taliban, was out in the early 2000s. Since then to now, the participation of women went up by 40%. In 1995, only 15% officially it's set. So it's went up to 21.76% as of 2019. This is World Bank data. Of course, on ground, reality may be slightly different from this. But I want to ask these young girls who are with me, who are staring at a very, very uncertain future right now. And for Farzana, you're an international business student. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm an international business student, and also I'm a video blogger.
Yes, and what did you plan to do in future? After having studied all of this, was there an intention to go back to Afghanistan and start your own thing there?
Okay. If you ask me this question about 1 month ago, I had one big list of my plan. It was I was built it in my mind already between Afghanistan and India, because my course is international business, and I was having project for dry fruit of Afghanistan, about kesher, about cloth, about beauty makeup and every stuff. I was looking and I was planning to do between Afghanistan and India. But now, within 1 month, everything changed. I'm really shocked and I'm really surprised. Now, my direction changed. How can I do this thing again with Afghanistan? Because these Taliban are already in our country, and you can see on the video the beauty salon which the girls are built it with lots of problem. They are just removing and they are cut it off. So now it's not possible for me to do any more work between India and Afghanistan if Taliban be in my country. But if Taliban go out of my country with the help of other country like US, like India, whatever, whom country they are helping us to send this Taliban away, and my country get back normal. Of course, there is lots of plan which we are having in our mind, and we are studied about that to do between our country, and we have to work for our country. If I go from my country in another country, if another person go who are studying, who are educated people, if they run away from our country, who will remain in our country? Who will work for our country? So no, this is not the solution that I have to go or another person has to go. But there is one bit of this Taliban, which they are in Afghanistan, they are not accepting us, especially those who studied in another country like India. So if I have the certificate of India, if I go to the airport of Afghanistan, and the Taliban, even within 1 hour, they will not let me to be alive. So I cannot take the risk right now. But still, I'm just hoping the situation should get better, because if it remain like this, nobody can live in Afghanistan, because our mind already was going abroad, and we had trying to be modern. But now this Taliban is pushing us 100 years back, which is not possible for me, which I studied in India, and go live in Afghanistan on that situation. So they are pushing the girls to wear the burqa and the hijab and go to school, university, or to do job. So this much hijab is okay. We don't have any problem. Everybody is doing, but like burqa, they are saying that you have to cover your face. So with this, how it's not possible for me as a girl? It's not possible with burqa to go to my office and do my work. And also there is the Taliban are taking the girls which are in my age, they are taking away and sending. No one knows where they are sending, and they are telling that they want to marry with them. So it's not possible. If I put myself in instead of that girls, if one Talib come to me and tell me you marry with me, it's not possible. On that time I will kill myself. I prefer to suicide myself, but I don't want to marry with a Talib. It's not my I mean, if I cannot do this, so if I cannot do, the other girls in Afghanistan, of course they cannot do. This is like killing us with wood, with something, not with knife. So it's a very bad situation in Afghanistan. Still, I'm telling that my plan is lots of plan, because I'm a video blogger. It was my mind to go to Afghanistan to show each and every state of Afghanistan in my YouTube platform to all over the world in English language. But right now, now this Taliban are making very hard for me and for thousands of the girls. They had such kind of plan, and still the business and everything which I had in my mind right now, the direction changed. It's still left is my country.
It's, I hope, Farzana, I hope someday you're able to go back and tell us the stories, via your blogs, your words that you want to, and, set up that business that you dreamt of. And I hope that happens someday. I want to go to Arifa as well. Arifa, ये जो अभी ऐसे स्टेटमेंट्स तालिबान की तरफ से आ रहे हैं और दुनिया की तरफ से आ रहे हैं, काफ़ी देशों ने ये बोला है हम देखेंगे अगर तालिबान सबको इंक्लूड करेगा और ऐसे स्टेबल सरकार बनाएगा तो हम उनको बैकिंग करेंगे। जब आप ऐसे स्टेटमेंट्स देखती हैं तो आपके मन में क्या आता है?
जब मैं ये सिचुएशन को देख रही हूँ कि तालिबान आ रहा है, बिल्कुल इस सिचुएशन को मेरे माइंड एक्सेप्ट नहीं कर सकता है। जैसे फरजाना बताया, अगर एक तालिब बता दूंगा कि मेरे साथ शादी कर दो, ये अनपॉसिबल, मैं अपने आप को मार सकती हूँ मगर उसके साथ शादी नहीं कर सकती हूँ। ये बिल्कुल अनबिलीव, माइंड बिल्कुल इसको एक्सेप्ट नहीं करता है। जैसे कंप्यूटर में एकदम से वायरस आता है और वो कंप्यूटर बिल्कुल जाम होता है, हमारे माइंड भी वैसे है। इट्स अ शॉक। जब तालिबान आया तो सब अफगान लेडीज को बिल्कुल शॉक है, क्योंकि हम इसके बाद पढ़ाई नहीं कर सकता है, बाहर जा नहीं सकता है, काम नहीं कर सकता है। जो पहले लेडीज काम करने वाली थी उसको मरने का मतलब था, मतलब वो लोगों सोच कर रहा है उसको उसके जान खतरा है। बिल्कुल इट्स शॉक फॉर all people, but for ladies so it is unbelief। मैं किस तरीके में बताओ, जो वो लोगों बोले तो बुर्का पहनो, ये कर दो, वो कर दो। आप लेडीज हो, आप खुद सोच कर दो, अगर आपको किसी ने पॉकेट के अंदर डालेगा तुम किस तरीके में फील करोगे? हमारे फील भी वैसे बद फील है।
नहीं, बिल्कुल सही कहा आपने, और वो सोचने में भी ऐसे लगता है कि कैसे ही होगा, एकदम it's hair raising. Bhaswati Mukherjee, but that's the point, these are the stories, these are the voices that the world, that the so-called decision makers in various bodies and individual countries are probably at this point not factoring in. I mean, apart from a few, words about it in their speeches.
That's why I think this program was so important, and I congratulate your channel for having it. It is very important to sensitize, including people living here in India, as to the terrible plight of Afghan women, who, as one of your panelists correctly said, is in the process of being forcibly pushed back 100 years of her development, which they had been enjoying for the last 20 years. So the point here is, where does it, how do we address it, and where does it end? I think we address it by continuing the pressure on those who matter, because they don't yet have a government in place. They are desperate to have an internationally recognized government. So certain conditions can be put into place, that they need to recognize basic human rights of women, etc. And this can be negotiated and worked out in the form of a document. And we also have to be extremely careful that if there is even a little bit of progress in Kabul, that progress must be reflected in other parts of Afghanistan, because one of your panelists pointed out that maybe Kabul gives a different impression because it's in the scrutiny, international scrutiny, but that she has got reports, and I've also had reports from many, that what is happening in other parts of Afghanistan is horrifying, including not just kidnapping of women or abducting them, but also of terrible scenes, videos which are emerging of small children being snatched away from their mothers and being forcibly married to Taliban fighters. So it is not going to be possible for the Taliban to get an internationally recognized government if they carry on in this manner. Therefore, through your channel and through continuously sensitizing the international community, by getting in also the UN, and we are the president of the Security Council this month, we've already had one debate, we have to keep the pressure up, because otherwise women whom we've seen on your panel just now, and so many others like her, they will have no future at all. And they're, in fact, One of them just said it's like being put into somebody's pocket. It's suffocating. They have no life left. So we have to keep fighting until that happens. And I agree that it's going to be a difficult struggle, but we can get there because they haven't yet got what they wanted. They don't have an internationally recognized government. And this is now the time to make sure that those guarantees are in place. So I think that's the way we have to keep at it. And it's very timely to have had this discussion. I congratulate you on that.
Thank you, Baswati Mukherjee and Veena Sikri, actually for being there. Before I let you go, Veena Sikri, would you want to add to this? If we want to take it up at the international level, how does India go about it?
Has a very, very big role to play in this. And I'm glad you asked me that question about India because that is very relevant. Right now, India is a non-permanent member of the Security Council. So for the next 2 years till the end of 2022, we have this leadership role in the Security Council, and we can certainly play a big role. At this very moment, for the remaining 2 weeks of August, we have the presidency of the Security Council. We are the chairman of the Security Council. And I think in follow-up of the 2 debates that India has chaired on the 6th of August and on the 16th of August, I think we should follow up on that. And in the summary records, we already see the references to the women's rights and follow it up with the Human Rights Council, with the UN Women, with the G7, with the G20, with all the groupings, with the West Asian countries, with ASEAN, with all the groupings. And let's get internationally, get all the conscience of the world built up and strong on this question. That we will be together and we're going to make sure that the Taliban will not be able to repeat in any way what they tried to do between 1996 and 2001. I'm very much hoping that the interim government will be an inclusive government and that it will be committed to these international rights which are there enshrined in the existing constitution of Afghanistan. But the pressure has to be kept up. And India has a very big role, leadership role in this. And I think I'm sure our government is thinking about it, is considering it very seriously. And I'm absolutely sure this will be followed up because this is an urgent necessity for the women of Afghanistan, which will have a role throughout South Asia. Yes. If the women of Afghanistan are pushed back 100 years, is going to have a very negative role in South Asia, in Central Asia, in West Asia. And I think that's why countries like Russia have announced today they're having a rethink. They're going to wait and see because Russia doesn't want the influence of this kind of activity going into Central Asia. They don't want it to go into West Asia. So, the world should know that it's not going to be contained in Afghanistan. And I'm once again appealing for India's leadership role on this. I'm sure the government is thinking about this very seriously. And I give them every, whatever we can do to support them. And through our organization and through many other means, bringing in the voices of the women of Afghanistan, what they have been doing, how they can keep it up, keeping the schools open, the colleges open, everything open so that life continues as it was. India does have a big role to play, and I'm sure that they're going to do that.
Let's hope so. Like you said, especially with the UNSC, platform right now available to us. And I think because India has so far been so closely working with Afghanistan for their development, investing so much over there, that it will only be right to continue that and raising these issues at these platforms. Thank you, ladies, both of you, for joining me, along with, of course, the 2 young girls. And we hope that they're actually, able to go back to a bright future in Afghanistan at some point. I'm also going to bring in now Rukhsar Rahim. Rukhsar, also a student, Afghan student in India, studying international relations. Dr. Saeed Nabil Shamim, author, who's joining us from Kabul as well. Let me see if I can actually, and also I have Halima Akbari. Halima is also a student, so we're trying to bring in as many voices as we can. Rukhsar, let me start with you. Have you actually been able to speak to your family? किसी से बात हो पाई है आपकी अफगानिस्तान में कुछ अपडेट आया वहाँ से?
Hello. Yes, I have spoken to my family in the past days. In the cities outside Kabul, the situation is not so good. But inside Kabul, the Taliban has taken over. But people are like going on with their own lives, with their normal lives. But people are in distress. They are so afraid because what happened the last time during the period that the Taliban were ruling in Afghanistan, they are stressed that the same thing will happen, and there's a like really high chance of that the history repeating itself. Right now, they do not have a stable government. Right now, the Afghanistan, the country, it doesn't have any government. If we want to talk about that, because Ashraf Ghani, he left the country, and Taliban, they have not decided on the constitution, on the rules, on the system of the country or anything. So we do not have a system right now. That's why it's like anything that's happening right now inside the city or outside, it's not for sure that will it continue like this or not. Like with the people that I have been speaking to from Afghanistan, with my family, with my friends, anyone, they are telling me that women are going out in the streets as they were in like before Taliban came to Kabul. But as per my experience, and as much as I have heard from my parents and others who have lived during the rule of Taliban in Afghanistan, I cannot be sure of that, because now they do not have a government. We can't say what they will do once they start their government. This might be just to show off that we want democracy. We will respect women's rights, humans' rights until
Right.
they develop their government. So that after that, like once they have international support, we don't know what will happen then.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. Don't know what will happen despite the claims they are making, which may simply be to get the power and endorsement from rest of the world to say, oh, look, they're trying to actually make a change. In fact, as I speak to all of you, there is a statement briefing actually happening by Taliban officials, and they're saying that the formation of a strong Islamic and inclusive government will take place soon. We want to assure that nobody will be harmed. We want to assure America and neighbors we will not let our territory be used against anyone. And of course, on what they will implement in the country, they say, we assure the media we are committed to you within our cultural limits. Private media will be free. Nothing should be against Islamic values, should be taken into account in the activities of media. And they can critique our work so that we can improve. But this is a little, all of the messaging that has come, how do you interpret it, Dr. Saeed Nabil? What Taliban has been saying in the last few days versus their actions 20 years ago or even 1 month ago?
Sorry, can you repeat again, please?
How do we read what Taliban is saying now? Do we believe them when they say they will be in inclusive government, they want women to work in the government?
Yeah, just hire their spoker man in our TV. He was live. He told some things that people can believe it a little, but the people are not sure about their future because Taliban had a very bad background when they were able to in the government of Afghanistan when they captured it in previous time. Their behavior was not good with people, with women. Therefore, the people afraid from them. Now, these are days, they are becoming better, and the relations of them are good with the people. People are, all the people are, don't worry, like the first days they captured Kabul, and the second days, day by day, it is going better.
No, absolutely. Let me also very quickly bring in another voice that we have, another young girl that we have who's joining us right now. Salima, Taliban abhi baat kar raha hai. They're speaking right now and they say we will allow women to study, work in the government within our framework as per our culture. But Taliban's view of culture is actually very different from what your and mine may be.
Yeah, Taliban now at this they are different, but previous time, and also they are different with the
Dr. Saeed,
time they.
I wanted to take that question across to Halima, if I can just get Halima to answer. Yes.
Okay, okay.
Exactly,
Halima,
that is what you pointed out. Taliban's culture, Taliban's rules and regulations are different from what we were experiencing and what we are used to it. As you can also see in the picture, people are like covering the faces and the pictures of even the pictures of the woman from the street, which before this it was something normal. People was not afraid of it, and now because of Taliban, people are not used to it. People are afraid of even showing seeing the woman's picture. So these are all the regulations that are put on by Taliban. And also, I am from Ghazni province. In my province, I talked to one of my teachers. They have English center. They have talked to Taliban. They have said that you can open your centers as long as you obey our own regulations and restrictions. And those restrictions are not acceptable, and they are not we cannot put them in practice in because of the people's economic and cultural problems. They're saying that you should have a separate even building for women. Women should have a special type of wearings, and no men teacher is allowed to teach women, and no woman teacher is allowed to teach men. So these are the things that the restrictions that Taliban are putting, and because of the problems, because of the economic problems, because of the lack of human resources, people cannot follow all these restrictions, and this will cause to a big problem for the people, and this will cause to for the girls to be deprived from education, from knowledge.
Yes, absolutely. I'm completely out of time, but thank you, Halima, and to others for joining me on this conversation. I appreciate it. Here is the point, and we've now got 4 young girls, voices of Afghanistan, telling you this here tonight on Miranan. We've been doing that through the last 2 days as well. These young girls are telling you the reality of who this militant organization really is, and what is the kind of regressive ideology that they believe in. And the only intent I had tonight was to put these voices across, because no one, absolutely no one, should get carried away with all the politically correct statements being issued by Taliban right now. It's not who they are. It's not what they will do. It's not what they did 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 1 month ago. It's not what they will change now. If you look at even the commentary coming in right now, yes, everything as per the Sharia law. Who's going to interpret that? How are they going to interpret it? What are they going to then implement? They've always said that. But they've also gone ahead and publicly beaten women, flogged them. And under those kind of practices that they follow, it is okay to rape a woman, abduct her, forcefully marry her as a punishment, even if a little bit of skin is shown. How are we going to decide what they're saying, whether that's actually what they will implement? When they say women can work, women can study within the framework, what is this framework? And how is that any kind of equality and no discrimination? If you're marking out homes of young girls or women who've actually been working all this while, if you're marking out homes of those who've stepped out of their houses, then how do we believe that you will actually let women be, lead the life that every woman across the world has the right to live, just like any man does? The international community will do a big, big disservice to the women, not just in Afghanistan, but across the world, if we allow Taliban to go back to those regressive practices. We already turned the other way for many of the other Islamic countries and what goes on there. And we've left those women to fight for themselves. We cannot, absolutely cannot, allow the women of Afghanistan to slip back into dark ages again. Thank you for joining us.